Preparing now, and we are live.
Okay, welcome everyone to the Isle of Palms Emergency City Council meeting. Today is Friday, June the 26th, 2020 at approximately 3:30. This is a virtual meeting due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As everybody knows, you can watch this live on YouTube. You can go back and watch previous meetings on YouTube. I'd like to call this meeting to order and acknowledge both the press and the public were duly notified of this meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The purpose of this meeting is the Emergency Ordinance 2020-10, an ordinance requiring individuals to wear face coverings in retail and food service establishments. I believe everyone was emailed an Emergency Ordinance 2020-10 of all the details. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
I think it's worth noting that the one of the exceptions for the rule is for when people are eating, they are not required to wear face masks under the ordinance, correct?
Very good. I'll tell you what, Desiree, why don't you give us a snapshot of the total ordinance? I know you can do it a lot faster than I can. But let's do it in English, not Spanish.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. So if you go to section number 1, it's where the definitions are included. It defines face covering as a piece of cloth or fabric that would have to be covering a person's nose and mouth. The definition of food service establishment would mean any establishment that sells food either for in-dining or delivery or takeout. Same thing with retail establishment, which includes grocery stores, convenience stores, and any other establishment engaged in the retail of sale of non-prepared foods, pharmacy, alcoholic beverage stores, laundromats, and other commercial stores that don't necessarily apply on the Isle of Palms because we don't have any furniture stores, but they are included in the definition of retail establishment. The use of face coverings is included in section 2, and that is something that would need to be discussed and decided by council as part of the discussion and the approval and ratification of this emergency ordinance related to the effective date. So that is something that would have to be discussed and directed by you all. In essence, the ordinance would require all customers that are within an enclosed area of either a food establishment or a retail establishment to wear a face covering. It requires all staff within a retail establishment or food service establishment for wearing a face mask. There is an exception here where it says employees that are working in areas open to the general public and in the areas in which interactions with other staff is likely and within social distancing of at least. If that can't be observed, then even staff in areas that are not open to the public would still be required to wear a face mask. Also, all food service establishment, like I said, would require staff who interact with customers to wear a face covering while working. There are some exceptions, and those are included in section 3. Outdoor areas that are attached to a retail or food service establishment where folks are social distancing. Also, for people whose religious beliefs prevent them from wearing a face covering. Those that can't wear a face covering due to a medical or behavioral condition. And another section that would need to be included and discussed by council is the cutoff date for children. Currently, the CDC recommends the children of 2 years or older to wear face covering. Then there is some discretion, I guess, on age cutoff, whether it's 8 years old or 12 years old. Also, for patrons, like Councilmember Smith mentioned earlier, patrons that are within a food service establishment while they're dining, they would not be required, obviously, to wear face masks. When in private and individual offices, when complying with direction of law enforcement officers, and settings in where it is not practical or feasible to wear a face covering, including when obtaining or rendering goods or services, such as the receipt of dental services or while swimming. And then another exception is when while exclusively with members of a family that live under the same household. So those would be the exceptions. So there's a couple of things that we would like for council to discuss in terms of the age cutoff date and also the effective date.
Desiree, if I'm not mistaken, I think the city of Charleston age was 2 years of age to 10. Am I correct in saying that?
I believe so. I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but
I've got it. I thought it was 10.
It's 10.
10, yes, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think it was 10 years old for Charleston. I've got it here somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. For children under 10 years old, provided that adults accompanying children ages 2 through 10 shall use reasonable efforts. Right here.
You said one other thing about swimming. We're not requiring face masks on the beach.
So the ordinance doesn't say anything specific to the beach, but it refers to indoor establishments.
Okay.
Within food service establishments and retail establishments. So that would not be included.
Okay.
And Mayor, our original ordinance did imply, before it was amended and voted, it did imply the beach. So it seems like pretty explicit removal in this.
We're just clarifying this.
Yeah.
So for clarification, an outdoor eating area would not be be covered in this then.
Section 3A of the exceptions, it says face coverings shall not be required in outdoor or enclosed areas appurtenant to retail establishments or food service establishments in which social distancing of at least 6 feet is possible and observed. So as long as folks are social distancing and within 6 feet of each other while outdoor next to a retail or food establishment, then a face covering would not be required.
Okay.
Desiree, strictly for the patrons, though, for the servers, it is required, as I read this.
That is correct.
Okay.
And the other thing is that you would also be required as a patron of one of those establishments to have a mask on until you get seated in a socially distanced environment, correct? As you're waiting to be seated?
I believe so, because the exception is when within a food service establishment while dining. So while you're waiting.
Right.
Yeah, so I would say so. I would say yes to that question.
The other question that we are going to have on this is, when do we begin this? And I think Charleston's beginning date is July 1st. Chief, is that enough time for us to move forward with this?
The reality is the only prep that we really need to do is to make sure that we get the information out there. I think our use of social media and our local media partners, that we could probably get it out, plus utilizing our livability force to go out and contact businesses. That's really the only prep work that we would need on our end to get something out there.
Desiree, will we need to have individual votes as for the ages and for the start date?
Well, there's already a motion on the table to approve
Right.
Yeah.
the ordinance, so it could be as an amendment.
Yeah, not all it is. We're just filling in the blanks for this. Okay.
So Mayor, I'll make a motion to use 10 years old as suggested, or, the same as the Charleston ordinance, and to begin on July 1st.
And 2 years to 10 years.
Right, correct. Thank you.
Second.
Okay. And
So,
Second.
Desiree, I'll let you do it.
Philip? Okay. So Councilmember Bell made an amendment to include the age cutoff between 2 to 10 years old and for the effective date to be July 1st.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait, yes, sir.
No, well, I think what he said was to take reasonable efforts for kids aged 2 to 10, but the cutoff is actually at 10.
That's correct, John. Not having a 2-year-old right now fully respectful
Mhm.
of what that means.
You throw Elmo on that thing and we're good.
Okay, and that motion was seconded by Councilmember Pounds, correct?
Correct.
Mayor, would you like any discussion on the amendment?
Any discussion on amendment from anyone? Hearing none, Desiree, roll call.
Okay. Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Nay.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Nay.
and Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Don't forget the
Okay,
mayor.
Oh, Mayor Carroll?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Amendment passes.
Okay, any other reading that we need to fill in the blanks on? I think we're covered. Back to the original motion
As amended.
as amended.
Okay. Councilmember Streetman,
Wait.
Wait a second.
Oh.
Let's go through this again. What are we voting on now?
you're voting on the emergency ordinance 2020-10 as amended.
Jimmy Ward's got a question.
Councilmember Ward,
We're gonna have any discussion on this?
we've been discussing. What would you like to say, sir?
Okay. From the beginning of this, we've been listening to the Centers for Disease Control, and they've been giving us a tripod, if you will, of 3 important things to do, and that's washing your hands, using disinfectant to keep your hands clean, and number 2, social distancing is required, is 6 feet, and 3, wearing a face mask. Now, we passed a resolution, I think I remember in May, that said that we highly recommend washing hands and, to recommend social distancing. In this ordinance, correct me if I'm wrong, when this is just addressing face mask, is the only thing that's required of this tripod, right?
That's correct.
So if somebody, we don't know where their hands have been, but they put on a face mask and they walk into a store or a restaurant, then they're not required to wash their hands or have hand sanitizer or anything like that, right?
Councilmember Ward, I would say that I think everybody's kind of learned over since March. Hand sanitizer is a must everywhere. And all this is doing is adding another layer of protection for the general public, for our residents, for our seniors.
The only place that I know that I go into that has hand sanitizer readily available on a consistent basis is like maybe 2 restaurants that I can think of. There may be more, I might be wrong, don't hold me to that, but City Hall has a sign right beside the keypad, don't enter until you use hand sanitizer, and it's readily available there. But I'm just pointing out that this does not include all 3 of those requirements that the CDC has put forth since March.
This is strictly about face masks.
Strictly about face masks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Discussion?
Yeah.
Randy Bell, Councilmember
Yeah,
Bell.
just a couple of comments. We started this with medical advice with Dr. O'Brien. And Desiree, I'd let you comment, but we've had over 70 citizens' comments. We've had, Desiree, correct me if I'm wrong, around 5 medical doctors on that, all with real degrees, not Facebook, Fox, MSNBC, but medical professionals. Every one of them has said this is a prudent, wise step, given all the unknowns. I listened to the City of Charleston's meeting last night. They had Dr. Ball from MUSC. His comments, the worst is yet to come, that the virus is higher in its attack than anticipated with shorter incubation. And the third factor was human behavior. And he said, the purpose of a mask is to protect you from infecting someone else, to protect someone else from infecting you, and frankly, to keep you from touching your face. So on a personal level, I have hand sanitizer everywhere in every vehicle. I think there's a certain amount of personal responsibility that goes with this. I think most of the comments are directed at the people that have not accepted personal responsibility, of which we have many visiting the island. I will not go to the Harris Teeter on the island unless they take other precautions at this point. I've heard from many residents that feel the same way. And frankly, there's not much we can do beyond hope and pray that we can get through this as quick as possible, and not have to shut everything down like Florida is leaning towards. Texas closed things today. This is, as I think, multiple council members have pointed out, it's not just for the residents. This is for our visitors and us doing what we can to stay open as long as we can. And that's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sweetman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, let me go on record. Of course, I'm already on record, but as everyone would know, Tuesday night I voted against this, and my stance then was that personal responsibility is still number one, and government overreach for me was an issue on all of this. I still feel that way. I still feel that we don't need to be involved as a government anywhere that we don't have to. So, over legislating is not something I like to do. But I got to say also that since then, and seeing all the comments, all the comments that have come in, all the personal interaction I've had, including today at Harris Teeter when I was in there shopping, picking up a few things, I'm convinced that what we need to do is listen to the citizens of the island. And I feel like I was elected to represent their thoughts. And right now, what I'm seeing overwhelmingly is our citizens want us to enact a mandatory face mask ordinance. And I look at this, I've done a lot of reading. I've listened to like the Charleston City Council and all the input that came in from Dr. Ball. Also have a great friend in Dr. Cole, the president of MUSC. I serve on one of his advisory councils down there, and I have great respect for him. And he's talked about it too, about what the possibilities may be if we don't get this under control in regards to heads in bed, overwhelming the emergency rooms and that sort of thing. They're not in a critical situation right now, but across the Tri-County area, all the hospitals are seeing some strain with the way things are surging. So again, like Councilman Bell, I think this is as much to protect not only our residents, but also our visitors coming in. And I'm just concerned that that what's happening right now is certainly something we need to address. And I really hate to do it because of the government overreach, in my opinion, but I think it's something our citizens are calling for. And I think I need to go along with that and reinforce that and continue to listen to what they want us to do as elected officials. So that's my spiel. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Popson.
Yeah, I just have a question like I did the other night. How are we going to enforce all this?
More through passing a law that has a little bit of teeth on it. Can our police be out there looking for everybody who's not wearing a face mask in every enclosed environment? Probably not. But this is just a way of trying to enforce or show our residents and show our visiting guests that we're trying to do the right thing by putting slowing down this spike that's happening. So yes, this is just trying to put the word out there that we are taking this very seriously. Does that?
Could I say something? Could I say something on that in terms of the enforcement piece of it?
Yes, sir.
I think I heard Dr. Ball, who was speaking at the Charleston City Council last night, bring that very subject up, Councilman Popson, and basically it's kind of like we do with smoking ordinance or anything else. It's more peer pressure than anything. That if you've got an ordinance in place and you're not obeying the law, then most of the time it's education and also peer pressure that, that's in place rather than actual police enforcement. I know the city of Charleston is going to have livability officers out enforcing things, but we don't have that luxury.
Councilman Popson.
Yeah, so we're making a law that we're going to have peer pressure enforced.
Kevin, it's just like Councilmember Streetman said, we have a smoking ban. And I don't think the police department has an undercover group down on the beach looking for smoking cigarettes. It's just a law that tries to help clean our beach. Chief Cornett, anything you want to try to appease our council members?
I don't know that I can necessarily appease, but what I can do is I can tell you how it would impact the police department. We would receive numerous calls based on the experience that we've had throughout the rest of the pandemic and the response. I could promise you that we would receive numerous calls from residents that are going to be upset that people are not wearing masks, and they're going to demand that the officers are there to write those tickets. And the only thing I would caution everybody to remember is that we are putting a lot of pressure on the police department to heavily enforce a lot of different things all at one time. When we start to spread a small force out too far, while enforcement's going to happen, it's not going to happen at the rapid response that everybody's going to want. It's going to impact parking. It's going to impact the face mask. It's going to impact other things as we are drawn to so many different areas to enforce. We have to take the same people to do those things. So just keep that in mind. That's how it would impact the police department.
I hope our residents will understand that we're passing something that's almost impossible to enforce, but it's a layer of protection. Anyone else for discussion?
I have a couple things I wanted to add. And I agree that this is about sending a message that this is important. It's important to public health as well as protecting commerce, and also, for the hope that we will be able to send our kids back to school and back to college, and so many other possibilities that are hanging in the balance right now, that we need everybody on board and doing what they can to protect those around them and protect themselves. I think we've heard from like an overwhelming number of residents that want this in place. And several of them have mentioned the fact that they don't feel safe going to their grocery store on the island. And that should be a huge concern for everybody, including the grocery store. So hopefully this will steer us in the right direction and send the right message. Thank you.
Councilmember Pounds.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two things real quick, and hopefully we can get to the vote. I'm where Rusty is. When you get elected to city council, what you would vote for doesn't really matter anymore. And if you wanted to do that, to me, you'd stay on the sideline and try and influence decisions. But when you become on council, it's about what the residents are telling us they want. And I think they have spoken loud and clear here. To me, what I hope we take away is, instead of jamming something into an agenda like we did on Tuesday night, to let residents have their opportunity to speak, just like they did this week, Mayor. I hope we can be a little more thoughtful instead of having a back-to-back meeting 72 hours later after a decision, and maybe people thinking we might be a bit dysfunctional, but we're just trying to be sensitive to people's feedback. But I think if we had given them time to have feedback in the first place, we could have passed a better ordinance right off the bat. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to add my little 2 cents worth. A lot has happened in the last 3 days. Number one, I'm trying to be as amenable to all of our council members who want to put things on the agenda. That was a crammed agenda, way too much information and not enough time to digest. But 2 things I look at every morning when I wake up. One is NOAA looking for storms, and the other one is DHEC by zip code. And the first time the Isle Palms and the Erie public beaches were shut down, I think we had 6 cases. We now are up to 20 cases confirmed on Isle Palms and possibly 123 estimated cases. What I don't want to see, and we had the island shut down. I don't want to see our island shut down again. I am like you, Councilmember Pounds and Streetman, that I voted against it the first time. But this time I'm listening to the residents. We've had 72 comments, of which 68 were for us to pass this and 3 of them were against it. So like y'all said, I was elected to represent the residents of Isle Palms. John, you're Councilmember Moore, you're the only one who hasn't said anything. Do you want to say anything before we take our vote?
I don't have anything different to say from Tuesday night, so I'm excited that we're reconsidering.
Okay. Desiree, may we have a vote?
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Nay.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Nay.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No executive session needed. Do I hear a motion to,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I move.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Mayor,
Thank you.
just
Thank
one thing.
everybody for in your comments.
Yes, just one thing. Councilmember Ryan, just for the record, wanted to notify everybody that he had a previous engagement that he could not cancel, and that's why he was not able to be present today.
Well, thank you all for being here this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about y'all?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.